Welcome to They Mostly Puttered at Night. Mostly, I am Salem, joined by my co-host Graveyard.
Hello.
This is episode 51 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. Prequels, sequels, and even more red doors. How important to the Insidious franchise is the Lambert family? Did we need to revisit them in the newest entry, The Red Door, or should the franchise have continued with other stories? We shall discuss as we go over Insidious Chapter 3, Insidious The Last Key, and the newest Insidious The Red Door, which just came out. So I guess spoiler alert for that one.
Yep.
Because it's like a week old at this point.
Yes. Yeah. I know all of these are first watches for you. Obviously, Red Door is first watch for both of us. I'm really interested to see what you think of these movies after last week.
We'll get into that. We'll leave the Red Door for last here, and then we'll start. I guess we're just doing chronological order as we normally do. So we will start off with Insidious Chapter 3, which is odd that they decided to put Chapter 3 on it when it's not Chapter 3.
It's Chapter
like,
0.
Yeah, well, it's like Chapter -1 because the next one is 0. And the next one is 0 because the next one literally connects to the beginning of the other movie.
Well, then it'd be
it goes around
0.75, 0.
Right. Yeah, but it's like around in a circle, so it's like right there. But like this one, they decided to go with Chapter 3, even though it's a prequel. I don't know. I don't understand that naming scheme. I guess they were just going off of people like, hey, it's an Insidious movie. I guess that, whatever.
Sure.
I think the next one, Insidious, the title, and then the subtitle of The Last Key, I think worked better. They should have done, Insidious, whatever you want to call this one. Greasy Footprints. Insidious Greasy Footprints.
Dermot Mulroney or Dermot McDillon?
Yeah. Dermot Mulroney or Dylan McDermott. I can never tell the two apart because they got the Dermots in their name.
Yeah.
But this one is Dermot Mulroney.
Yes.
So this one is, and again, it's odd because Chapter 2 ended with Elsie going with Tucker and Specs to a house with a girl in a wheelchair, right?
Yep.
But Elsie was like a ghost.
Elise.
Whatever her name is. L. That was at the end of 2, right?
And she gasped at what she saw.
Right. But that was at the end of 2.
Yes.
So they have the same kind of thing with a girl in a wheelchair, only she's not dead. Now it's a prequel. It's before she's alive.
Yep.
But it's the same story. I'm guessing. I don't know. Who knows what's going on. Okay. So Insidious Chapter 3 is it starts. Where does it start off? Does it start off with her at home?
Yeah, she's talking to her dog. We find out just through subtle hints that her husband recently passed.
The dog's name is Warren.
Yes.
Okay. Not the dog. Warren. He's his own person.
Yes. And then she had given up essentially on being a medium.
Right. So then she's living her own kind of lonely life. And at this point in the story, well, I guess we don't really find this out till later, but I guess it can be said is that Specs and Tucker are not yet in her life.
Correct.
So she was just a regular old psychic that did readings in her basement, and that was it. So her husband died. We don't get the backstory of that yet, but her husband died, and she just doesn't do it anymore. And so this teenage girl, comes to her house, asking her, she said somebody in her family or her friend's mom, they got helped or something like that. but that is never mentioned again. So it's just like an excuse to get her there, I guess. But there's no actual connection there.
It's almost like our tile episodes, Forgotten Threads.
Yeah. It doesn't, like, again, they make a specific point. She could have just said, "Oh, I found your name in the newspaper," or something. No. She says specifically her friend's mom told her about you or whatever, and then the friend's mom was never talked about again. Whatever. So she talks to her and she's like, "Oh, I lost my mom suddenly, and I really." I really have like things to ask her, like I'm going through like a tough time in my life. I have, questions. I just want to say goodbye kind of deal. Right. And she's like, eventually says, no, I'm not going to help you. And then eventually she feels bad for her and she's like, okay, I'll try. She tries a little bit and you can tell that her vision gets real dark. And she just goes, nope, can't do it. And she just kind of kicks her out. So, she goes back home. Then we're introduced to her family, who is Dermot Mulrooney is her dad, single dad now because the mom died. Mom died of cancer or something.
Something like that.
And then she's got a little brother. I don't remember his name.
I don't remember his name.
It doesn't matter. He literally is like only in this beginning part, and then he shows up like one more time, and then that's it. He's gone.
He plays an important plot point.
Yeah. There is. Well, he does have one important plot point, and then that's it. That's literally it.
Yes.
And then he follows the road of Cali in the second movie, where it's like it's just gone. Who knows where they went? Okay, so they're basically kind of showing that, Dermot Mulrooney's have a very hard time dealing with everything by himself. He kind of relies on her to do a lot, helping with the little brother and around the, housework and kind of stuff like that. And you can tell that she's trying, she's, a teenager. She's trying to live her own life kind of thing. And you can tell she's, kind of tired of doing all that work. She has plans. She wants to do things. She's trying to go to like this theater school, whatever. And so she's like, I got these plans. I got to go do stuff. And that's why she was trying to talk to her mom to like get advice on what she should do and whatever. So anyway, so they're, she's kind of like, butting heads with her dad a little bit, but not too bad. Just, normal, I would say normal kind of grieving teenager kind of ways. Anyway, so she goes to this audition for her theater school in the city. I guess they're already in the city. Who knows? I don't know where they are.
What city? Somewhere in California.
Yeah, I don't know where they are, but there's like, I guess, tall-ish buildings there. So a bigger town. I don't know where. So she does this audition, and she kind of feels like she ruins it. Like she kind of screws up and has to like start over. We don't get to see the whole thing. But we do get to see her like waving to like a ghost figure, like hanging up in the rafters of this big theater. And then, afterwards, she's hanging out with her friend, and they're like, talking about how she screwed it up and how, well, she doesn't have any other plans for the future. This was it. She got to put all her eggs in one basket, and now she screwed up this audition and now she doesn't know what to do. And they're like talking like, okay, they're going to go and do stuff and have fun and blah, 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 blah. Bam! A car just straight up hits her. And I don't know what it is about this part, but I laughed out loud, hysterically laughing when that happened. It was just so out of left field and it was so ridiculous looking that I just, oh man, I was dying laughing. It was hilarious. I know it's supposed to be a catastrophic event, but I was dying laughing. So she gets hit by the car, gets injured very, very badly, right?
It looked like she's roadkill, like she's
right. Yeah. She gets hit hard, slaps hard against the pavement, like not moving. It's bad.
She like got Final Destination almost.
Right. Yeah. If it was a bus, she probably would have been dead.
Oh yeah.
So she basically, goes to the hospital. She has like a near-death experience. And then she sees like, scary ghosty stuff, that's out there. Well, I guess I should clarify that the reason that she got hit is because she got distracted by the guy waving to her again, who was like a ghostly figure. whatever. That's what get distracted. You got hit. Actually, she probably would have got hit anyway. She was just like blatantly standing in the middle of the street. So she wakes up in the hospital. It's an indeterminate amount of time later. Obviously, her dad is there, very concerned. And she's messed up. Like,
yeah.
Both of her legs are totally like shattered. Or like both her legs are in like big long casts, right? She can't walk. So she's like stuck in a wheelchair at this point. She's in the hospital for a little while and they bring her home, but as she comes home, she basically like there's like an old lady with like, does she have, I don't know, dementia or something? And she's telling her that the man the man that can't breathe is in her room and is looking for her. And she's like, "Oh, I know you've heard him before. Like he's been in the vents." And I guess earlier in the movie, she did hear some things in the vents. And she was looking. She didn't see anything, but she didn't think something was there. Anyway, she's alluding to that. Yeah. Okay. So she gets to the house. The lady tells her that the breathing man is there. She goes up in her room, and there's obviously like creepy stuff there. So she starts having like all these weird, like, I don't even want to call them visions because they're like straight up like hands like coming out of the ceiling and like touching her. And like, it's like straight up like things are there. Like the guy's like crawling on the ceiling. The guy's like crawling on the ground under her bed and stuff. It's like he's this, whatever this entity is, this breathing man, or not hard breathing man. What do they call him? The man who can't breathe?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Which I'll just call him asthmatic man.
Yeah, I'm just going to call him breathing man. I know he's supposed to be the opposite of breathing man, but I'm just going to call him breathing man because the other thing is too long.
Yeah.
So when I say breathing man, I mean the man who can't breathe. So a breathing man is like up there, and touches her and all kinds of stuff. And the dad gives her a bell and says like, "Oh, when you need me, ring the bell, because I'm here to serve you now because you got broken legs." So like she keeps getting scared by this guy who's this old man. It's like an old man in like a hospital gown with like like an old oxygen mask on him.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she keeps like ringing the bell and stuff, and he comes in there and he sees like where she says the guy was on the ceiling. There's all these cracks and stuff in the ceiling, and so he calls the landlord and they go upstairs and look in the apartment above him, and there's like all these like greasy tar footprints all over the ground. And you can see they were like, mainly walking over right above where her room is.
Yep.
And so, yeah, they have like, weird kind of, jump scare, spooky events happen up there. This happens, I think, multiple times. And then I don't want to say like the third time it happens, she actually wakes up there.
Right.
And she doesn't know how she got there. Like she she was having a bad dream about being up there. Like, she's like going into the further as we know it as the further. Yes. And she has dreams that she's going up in a further, but she wakes up and she's not back in her body. Her body is up there. So she's like somehow teleporting her body up there. And then when she wakes up there, the breathing man is there and he keeps like coming in and like trying to like touch her. It's very creepy. Like, doesn't say anything, doesn't like show that there's any kind of like need or want other than to just like touch her, which is weird. But we start to see that he also has like a pet kind of person, and this pet person is her, but without eyes, a mouth, hands, or feet.
Yeah.
It's just like a weird like version of her that like crawls around. And that's, she comes back, and at this point, the dad, she's like screaming, and the dad finds her upstairs, and that's when they talk about, what the hell is going on. And at this point, they're like, "Oh, what should we do?" And then this is the part where
plot point brother.
Yeah, the plot point brother. Again, like literally, he's in the beginning to show that he's an annoying brother that she's got to take care of. Then he kind of exits the stage. Then he comes back in for this point where he goes, "Hey, look at this." And it's like Tucker inspects like their own little thing before they met Elle, right?
Yep.
So I think they still have the same name, the Spectral Visions or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but they're like, whatever, like ghost hunters, essentially.
Oh, they are absolutely trying to do their own ghost hunter shit.
Right. Yeah, quintessential like ghost hunter looking people. Only Tucker now has inexplicably Mr. T's haircut.
Hey,
I don't know why.
it's before 2010. That means it's early 2000s. Why not?
Right, yeah. And I guess he's moved from Hot Pockets to cupcakes.
Which he inexplicably I'm planning to say this now. We see this in the next one as well, because you mentioned the Hot Pocket before. He absolutely waits to take the first bite of it as soon as someone opens the door to be introduced to it.
Right. Okay, no, and now the cupcake is stupid, right? But it is not nearly as bad as that Hot Pocket. That Hot Pocket bothered the shit out of me. Because again, he does not have a microwave in his truck.
Right.
Which means he microwaved it at home before he got in the car. He held it in his hand all the way there and then got out of the car like it's now obviously cold, right? Or at least at the very best, it's lukewarm. And he walks all the way up to the door, still holding it in its like, what do they call that? The crunch packet or whatever. The little packet you're supposed to cook it in to make it crunchy.
Yeah.
And so he's still holding it in that and then takes the bite out of it when they answer the door. Like, dude, it could have been any other food and it would not have mattered. But no, it is very, particularly a Hot Pocket. And it's stupid. Cupcake, you can eat a cupcake at room temperature. You could have had the cupcake in your car. Like, that's only, you carry the cupcake from the car to the door. That's not that big of a deal. The Hot Pocket bothers me.
But this is his ice breaking.
Right. Yeah, this is his thing. Yeah, this is his thing. I don't know. This is like he's got autism and this is the thing he thinks breaks the ice or something. I don't know. But yes,
just like you people, I also eat.
Yes, right. Exactly. I eat human food like the rest of you humans. But yeah, so he's eating his cupcake. Anyway, they come in and they do like their routine where they're, scanning for, heat signatures or whatever, whatever PMI. I don't know what the hell they're looking for. So they like, put a camera on her, to kind of watch her when she's sleeping. And they're all like, oh, we're going to watch her. Even though there's like 4 men there, right?
Yes.
Like, why doesn't one of them just stay in the room with her? I don't get that.
Hey,
not,
you know
not
what?
like she's sleeping naked or something.
It's a 3-bedroom apartment, and apparently we just need them to fall asleep because that's what they do.
I guess, yeah. So they all fall asleep and they wake up and they go, oh look, she's moving around, and so they see her moving around and they go to like find her and they get led into the closet and they go into the closet and they find the camera is there but she's not there, and then she like jumps out from somewhere. I don't know if she's under the bed. I don't know where she was. But she jumps out from somewhere and then just beats the crap out of these 3 of Specs, Tucker, and her dad. I mean, just downs them all and then proceeds to kick the headboard of the bed until her casts shatter off her legs.
Right. And then she gets a box cutter.
Right. And then she gets a box cutter and is going after, she goes after her dad, right?
No, she's gonna slice her own throat.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever.
Yeah,
she doesn't. She gets stopped and tackled or whatever. So yeah, at this point they tie her up and they realize she's like possessed or something. Like it's not her. They don't know what's going on. And this is the point where we kind of got a couple of flashbacks here. I just left them out because I don't like jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
Is that Elle was having like bad dreams and visions about her specifically. And she like woke up and wrote in her dream journal like her name. Basically she just like shows up and goes like, okay, like I have to help you because I keep having these dreams. They tell me I'm supposed to help you, so I'm here to help you.
Right. And Tucker and Specs are going to leave, so the dad's kicking them out.
Right. Yeah, and she tells them to stay because they might need them. I don't know why. She doesn't utilize their skills at all.
Nope.
But I guess we wouldn't have them joining up together because this is their first meeting. They wouldn't have them joining up together if they didn't, she didn't tell them to stay. So anyway, so yeah, she basically, has everybody hold their hands. That goes into a trance. She goes into the further, she sees other like kind of dead people in the building that are basically victims of the breathing man. and they kind of like point her towards where the breathing man is. She goes and sees the breathing man, and as she's like going to check him out, she gets strangled by
Dun, dun, dun.
yeah, the guy who ends up killing her in the
Parker.
yeah. But I mean, they say it's an old woman. They don't say who it really is because she doesn't know at this point.
The bride in black,
yeah, she just knows. Yeah, the bride in black is threatening her all the time. In her dreams, that's the dark thing that happens. Why she can't keep going in. So she goes in there. She gets strangled, and they barely like save her and pull her out. And then she's like, "Oh, I can't do it. I have to leave again." And so then they like, I'm trying to think. They basically rally her again, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, they rally her again. She decides, okay, I have to try. Like, I have to do everything I can. Even if I do die, I have to, like, do this. So she goes back in. But she goes back, talks to the same ghosts again. She goes to the same place. And this time, instead of she kind of, like, pushes the bride in black away by, like, oh, yeah, remember, I'm alive. They're like, oh, no, you're alive. And then they go away.
Pow.
Yeah, they're gone. And then so she goes in the room, and it's not the breathing man. It is her old husband. Well, not her dead husband, I should say. So the dead husband is like, "Oh yeah, come on in, like hang out with me, but you got to kill yourself. You got to live in here with me forever." And she's like, "Wait a minute,
you would never tell me
my
that.
husband wouldn't do that." And then of course it's not her; it's the breathing man. And they have like a struggle, and then basically she like saves the girl, and then her like kind of. What do you want to call that? Like half version of her, like the weird eyeless, handless version of her.
You're right. She was missing an eye, one hand. She still had her feet though. She wasn't completely his.
Right. Yeah. So basically, so they were like kind of halves and half. And so she was saving one of them, and the other one basically because it had enough soul, kind of like struggled back against him as well. And so they were all able to get out of it. And so they all come back to the real world, and then they're all.
Well, her mama came and helped her too.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Move the light shirt.
Yeah. It's like all these movies have the same stupid ending. I mean, like the next one is the same. Well, sorry, I don't want to spoil it, but the same stupid ending as well. But yeah, so yeah, the mom comes back to help her, and then she gets her final. Goodbye with her mom or whatever, and then she has to say goodbye because she has to go back to the real world or else she's gonna die. So they all go back to the real world, and then Elle decides that she's gonna work with Tucker and Specs, but she tells him you're gonna have to wear some different clothes,
maybe some suits,
maybe some shirts and ties.
Yeah.
And then. That's it.
Well, then we have the gasp ending where she feels something in the presence, and it's the man with the fire on his face behind her. And
rawr. Rawr. But it's like a dollar store version of him.
Like it very much is.
It looks like somebody made a mask for a Halloween store, and the guy just like put it on. That's what it looked like. It was like very generic looking.
Not as bad as Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
No, not as bad. He wasn't wearing a garbage bag cape.
We'll call him the Wish version of the Man with Fire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like it was a very generic, cheap version of looking thing.
Yes.
But yeah, and then that's it.
Yes. I know this is your first watch, so let's get your thoughts on this and your initial watch through of it.
I mean, it's all right. I don't know. It's about it's about at the same level as the other two. I mean, there was some things that I really didn't like about this one. Because the first one, there wasn't a whole lot of like background stuff, right?
Right.
It was like they had the man with the red face, but they don't really explain who he is. They say he's like a demon who only wants to come to this world to like cause pain. That's literally the only background that we get. So there's not a real person at all or whatever. And I really thought they learned their lesson in the second one because like I thought it was much more compelling when you like have like an investigation and find out like who this person is and what they're looking for and what their motivations are. I thought it was a much better movie with all of that kind of background, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this one is like they have that interesting character, but they don't do any background at all. Like they just rewind back to the first one to where it's just like this scary character that they think up, and then that's it. But like, at least that guy was scary, right? He's like, Darth Maul looking guy with like, crazy sharp fingernails that he sharpens on a grinding stone, right?
While
Like that
listening
guy.
while listening to Tiny Tim, yeah.
Right, yeah, but that's scary, right? That guy can do some damage to you. Like the ghost in this movie is like an 80-year-old man that looks like he's dying of cancer with a like an oxygen mask on. Like
Yeah.
that's not scary. Like I'm not scared of an old frail man with an oxygen mask on. But yeah, there's no explanation, no lore, no nothing at all. The only thing that we're told about this person is that he lived in this building a long time ago. That's it. Like it couldn't have been that long ago because that oxygen mask is like, at least in the last 50 years. That's not a long time ago. Like the old people in the building should still remember who that was. There's none of that. No background, no investigation, like none of that stuff. It was just, I don't know. They just like pick this like rail and they just go down it and they don't, stray from it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like, that was the main thing I didn't like about it is I was waiting for a story and I got nothing.
I mean, you're not wrong. No, and they stopped with the screechy stuff. The jump scares weren't as gratuitous.
There was like the one stretch where like she was like, back in the house, home from the hospital. There was like a stretch. There was like 4 jump scares in like 1 5-minute scene, but that was it. That was really all there was in the whole movie. But they were like very condensed.
Yeah,
like
I mean, like I would say, the haunting elements were more classic haunting things, like hearing stuff from the vents. Or, she had that little knock with her pseudo boyfriend next door that she would knock and he would knock back and realize that, hey, it's not him. He's like, oh, I'm not home. You can tell because I have this ancient phone with a flip with a keyboard. And, you know what I mean? Like it was more classic haunts. It wasn't like necessarily right in your face, like, the ghost boy listening to records and playing hide and seek with Rose Byrne.
Right.
And I mean, I think it did a good job for it being a apartment complex because, I mean, we've seen very good stuff in the past couple of years that deals with old apartment complexes, specifically Evil Dead Rise, Archive 81, and those did really well, I feel. Now you wouldn't think this was like a struggling person's apartment complex. Is clearly they have 3 bedrooms in their apartment.
You can't forget the ultimate apartment block building. Demons 2.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, just like older stuff. And I thought it did okay. This is one of the rewatches and first thoughts of it. And I'll get into it. Elise having power in the further that we don't see ever again is weird. That she's able to slam her hand on the ground and make the ghost disappear. Like when she goes into the further that we see in the first Insidious, she doesn't have stuff like that. All she has is speaking to him and we go, you have no power here. She's not like punching them and shoving them and stuff like that.
To be fair, we don't really see what she's doing in the further, really. In the first one. She's just there.
But if she's able to kick ass like that, like that's a weird thing to put into a prequel that we don't see again.
Yeah, I mean, when we get into the lows, I'll go into that.
So yeah, what highlights do you have?
I I really did like when the car hit her. Like I said, it was very funny, and I don't know. It's just the way that it's done. Whenever it's in a movie and like you least expect something to happen, it's usually somebody gets hit by a car. Like
Yeah.
that is. Oh, I don't know why, but it's funny to me. And that was very funny. I liked the breathing man like design. I liked, like he was like genuinely creepy, but
Yes.
we'll get there. But yeah, like I said, the design of him, the idea of him was cool looking, right? Like whoever did the effects and stuff did a good job. I liked Tucker's Mr. T haircut. I don't know. I don't know what he was going for. He was going for like a retro 80s thing. He was wearing like a Masters of the Universe shirt. Like
Yes.
not He-Man the cartoon. No, we're talking Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe live action movie shirt.
Yeah.
With Mr. T's hair. It's like, dude, did you teleport back to like 1987?
Yeah.
And then of course Warren, because Warren was adorable.
So we'll get into that, I guess. Well, I'll say this now. Highlights Warren, yeah. Warren's a good boy. But the question is, especially as we see Warren again in the last key, and then we know within a couple of days after that, Elise is dead. What happens to Warren? He's clearly still alive.
Yeah, well, I would hope that when she left, because she was planning on being gone for a while, that she would have somebody take care of him.
I'm saying I need Warren there with Tucker and Specs.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe not Warren, because Warren is an old man.
Oh.
So if you want to wait for him to like limp behind him for like 10 minutes when they go anywhere. They put him in a little wagon. They pull him behind him. There you go.
Hey, you know what? They put glasses on Specs, put specs on him. These movable camera that's smaller. It's perfect. Warren has a job on the Spectral team.
There you go.
Because he's a good. Yeah, I mean highlights. I think, like when I watched this, Dermot Mulroney, I'm like, I didn't know who he was at that point in time, but now looking back, I'm like, he's in everything. I just never realized that.
Well, he's popped up in a lot of stuff lately. But yeah, I mean, I've seen him in a lot of stuff because he's in a lot of bad movies in the 90s.
Yeah. No, but I agree that the breathing man design creepy as hell. He was like a mix of with the oxygen mask, Darth Vader mixed with like a Doug Jones type character you'd normally see him in, with almost a Night King aesthetics a little bit too.
Yeah. I mean, well, again, yeah, there was just there was something about him that was interesting, right?
Yeah.
And you wanted, like, again, it was an interesting character. You wanted to know more.
Right. And, be like, oh, he used to he'd kidnap young girls and keep them as pets. That would be an interesting backstory to find all that stuff out. But they went to I think they started going into the Conjuring world of, hey, we're going to have this one character that is a demon or a bad guy, and if he does really well, we'll have a whole spin-off from it. I felt like that's what they tried to do again.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I don't know what they were trying to do, but
I don't know. I mean, they took off his breathing mask and he, choked out dust and died.
Well, I don't know if he can truly die in the dead world, but
right. Let's get into the low points then, shall we?
Okay, yeah. Number one, the acting in this movie is atrocious. It is bad. I mean, just like every single person is bad in this movie. Like Dermot Mulroney is just phoning it in. Like Elle is, I don't know what is going on. It's like they had like a comic book writer write all her like one-liners. I don't get it. Like she literally says, like, "Come on, bitch." I'm just like, what was that? Like, that is not a line that should have came out of your mouth. Like, that is ridiculously stupid.
That's where the girl got it from Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
Yeah. I like them peepers, bitch. It's referencing a song that's not even in the movie. Yes. It's about makes much sense. But the, again, it was just all of her like lines when she was in The Further were just horrible. I mean, her lines outside of The Further were also bad, but I think the lines of her in The Further were just they were so bad, just not good at all. And it was just off-putting. Again, like I said, everybody else is just kind of phoning it in. I mean, the kids are obviously like not good. They didn't ever. I've never seen them in anything else, so I don't think they got anywhere past this.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, I mean, everything's just so goofy and cheesy and like just all over the place. I don't know what they're doing. Again, it was like you could tell the director was like, he was probably like, zooming it in or something, like he like Skyping, looking like barely there. Like it didn't feel like there was a whole lot of control happening. But I think the one thing that really upset me about this movie was that there is absolutely zero backstory about what is going on. Now I understand. I don't want everything spelled out for me because we've talked about this many times. Is that I want enough
more versus not. Yeah,
I want enough to give me interest. Like, okay, that's cool. Like that's a cool part of it, right?
Yeah,
I don't need to know everything. Again, you spell it all out for me and you ruin it. It's like. You want to see the rabbit come out of the hat, but you don't want to see, the whole rabbit, right? You just want to see a little bit of it. You want to see more. But we got like nothing at all. The breathing man, this big, scary, like demon person. Like I said, I thought they learned the lesson from the second one. This big, scary demon person, we learned nothing about. We don't learn name. We don't learn like, what happened to them, why he's there. Why is he trying to like collect women? I mean, why is he like, in a mask, in a hospital gown? I mean, nothing is answered at all. The only vague thing that we get is that, he's a person that lived here a long time ago.
Scary.
That's it. That's all that there is. And again, like the design of him is interesting, but I mean, like you gotta give us something to like, to work with. There's literally nothing. Like nobody else, no of the other ghosts or anything that you see, any kind of background is given at all. And it's just that whole, like, I like touches of lore, just to give flavor to the world where there's a lot more to it, but it's not all given to you. You have to like earn it, right? That's why like sequels that come along and they give you little bits and little bits and little bits. That's cool, right? It's enough to keep you coming back. This gives you absolutely nothing. So there's no reason to ever come back to this because you didn't learn anything the first time. So, like, if they were going to have this character come back in another movie, like, they would have to give you his origin because we didn't even get that. We don't even know who this is.
Yeah, I mean, again, we did get Carl.
Well, yeah, that's who cares?
We got more Carl in this than we do in the Red Door.
Right. Yeah, but it's like you get, like, okay, yeah, we get how Elle met Tucker and Specs, like, woo, but that's it. That's all.
Yep.
That's all you get. There's this whole ghost story that the whole movie's supposed to center around. We get nothing.
Yes.
And I think that's just the biggest thing missing. It just feels like there's a big missing piece. Like there's just not a whole lot of things going on. It just seems like an excuse to put all these people in a room. And so you can end the movie at the place that you want to get to.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the red-faced man basically looking like a Halloween mask version, like a spirit Halloween mask version of what he looked like in the first movie.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, now I've never rented an apartment, but I like Dermot's reaction. Who's going to pay for my ceiling to the landlord in an apartment complex?
It's like, Well, maybe it was condos.
Maybe no.
I don't know. That's the only reason I can see him saying that. I don't know.
He is the landlord is like
right.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, yeah. The acting was phoned in there, and Lisa's one-liners, which she shouldn't have one-liners. She shouldn't have the powers in the further, especially being new to it. And I mean, I think Tucker and Specs were the same, but everyone else, though, yeah, is just so out of place. And that ending was easily predictable. Of someone trying to contact their dead parent, usually the mom. And like I said, we got this in our freaking the Boogeyman. Same thing.
Yep.
Like of course, the mom was going to come back and help save her kid, and she'll have that heartfelt goodbye. We'll have the flashback. The mom's been there always with you. Will I see her again? No, now she's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very, very predictable thing, which unfortunately made it feel very generic.
Correct.
And I don't think this franchise as a whole is generic enough to be as generic as this movie is. Like, there's interesting things. There's things, the veil, the further, whatever you want to call it, and kind of tying into a lot of old lore of people being able to be not necessarily possessed, but essentially tagged and haunted themselves. And this is still a pretty strong case with no ties of past, present, or future of this family ever again. And with the Lambert family is like, oh crap, there's a whole history behind all this stuff. And these are just like a case of the week, a monster of the week episode of Insidious. That being said, we're gonna keep with the unnecessary jump scare music out of 10 just because of this franchise. What would you give this out of 10?
I will give this movie I will go 3 unnecessary jump scares out of 10.
3. Wow.
Yeah, the everything, there's no lore, and that would have been the only thing that would have given it extra points. And then everybody else was just phoning it in. So there's really not a whole lot for me to recommend this movie.
Yeah. Your lowest so far in this franchise. This is definitely one of the lowest ones for now for me. I'm going to give it 5.5. This is definitely not one that's on my rewatch list. And this, like I said, I think I've said last week that the first 2 are on my rewatches every once in a while. As a franchise, not necessarily. I said it interesting idea, poorly executed.
Yeah, like I said, if there was lore about who this guy was and why he was scary and what happened to these other people that they met in the further and stuff like that, like if it would have given me enough of an interesting story to like care, yeah, could have added a couple points, I'm sure. But because that's what the second one did. Okay, not a fantastic movie overall, but they had enough interesting stuff in there to like have me like want to continue to watch it.
Right.
Not enough for me to want to watch it again, but enough for me to go, okay, I wasn't upset that I watched it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it seems to be the most heinous people in the further are things that were horrible people in real life. That we saw with number 2, that we got Parker, we got the Black Bride's backstory. And yeah, I mean, if they continue that with the Breathing Man, it would have made a better movie. We can solve what the hell's going on with this guy. So it's like a whodunit, but more of a thriller with it, with horror elements.
Right.
All right. Shall we move on to the next one?
Sure. Insidious, the last key. Take it away.
Yes, Insidious Last Key, and they clearly dropped the chapter of this. Essentially, I'll just throw it out there right now. This creature design looked like it came from the mind of Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah,
I think
I could see that.
But we start off in 1953 in Five Keys, New Mexico. And we're introduced to an army town, right?
An army town?
Would you? I would think that the Five Keys is like a base.
I think it's a prison.
Oh,
the dad was a prison guard. That was the uniform that he was wearing.
Okay,
and that's why in the beginning, when she's talking about seeing the person in an electric chair, I think that's why the dad is so messed up, because I think he was the executioner or something.
Gotcha.
I think they alluded to that. They didn't come out right out and say it, but I'm pretty sure that's what was going on.
So probably a prison town where the people that worked in the prison still lived like very close outside of it.
Right.
Obviously enough for the electric chair to affect their power.
Right. Yeah.
And she's talking about like, this little girl, without saying her name, is like, oh, he was 33, killed 5 people, blah, blah, blah. And he had prime rib or whatever it was for dinner. And his last words, I'll see you in hell, or something like that. And then we introduced, it's Elise. Imagine that. This is kind of the childhood backstory of Elise. Her brother Christian had a whistle because his sister was always talking to ghosts. They had this adjoining room that she was blaming like the ghost child that used to live there before. So, obviously past residents. The mom's essentially saying, hey, you need to keep this to yourself. Don't let your dad hear. He doesn't understand your gifts. And that's clearly not okay in the head. Drinking, if you're an executioner, you're not going to be okay in the head. Killing someone like that is probably going to mess most people up.
Oh, that's why, like modern day executions, they don't tell you who is killing the person.
Right.
Like every single way that they do it, like, when they're talking, whether it's electric chair or lethal injection or firing squad or whatever it is, they always have like 5 dummies.
Yeah.
And then one person, but they don't tell the one person that they're the person. So all 5 of those people, again, like odds are it wasn't you. Right? If there's a less than 25% chance that it's you, it's a very low percentage that it was you that actually pulled that thing. So that's how they get people around that guilt. But back in these days, they didn't. It was just there was a person who did it.
Right. And so she's at night. She's playing with the child that's there. She's talking about like, oh, what do you think happens after you die? He's like, oh, I know what happens. You go in the darkness? She's like, oh, it's her brother. But no, he's sleeping on the bed. There's a weight above her. She screams. Dad's like, did you see a ghost? Yes, Daddy. No, at least just say no. I don't have to do anything. Did you see a ghost? Yes. And then he proceeds to beat his daughter. Because, well, he doesn't appreciate it, doesn't understand it, doesn't, she's a witch type thing. But she kept doing this, and so he locks her like into the cellar, not even the basement, like cellar.
Well, okay, this is the 50s. I'm pretty sure that was a bunker.
Bomb shelter, yeah.
Yeah, because he was like literally watching Duck and Cover on TV.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he was like afraid of the atomic bomb, so I'm pretty sure he would have had a bunker.
Yeah, they had a crank generator down there.
Yeah.
And essentially she's hearing voices. She sees the demon with the keys for fingers, essentially.
Yeah, I just call him the Key Man because
Key Man.
They give these ghosts like these long ass names. Like I'm not gonna say that every time.
The janitor.
Yeah. Exactly. The guy with the keys.
Right.
So I just call him the Key Man.
Yeah. And she starts going into the further and kind of being possessed. Her mother goes down there and then gets promptly killed. Dad clearly blames Elise and her powers. Are we introduced? We're introduced to years later now, though, right? In the same thing, like 10 years later or something like that.
Yeah, at that point. I mean, you can just go the step further at this point, so you don't have to jump back and forth. I mean, that's what I always do because I always forget to go back. So yeah, the next point of that is we fast forward. Again, this doesn't happen until a little bit later in the movie, but we'll say it now so you know what happened there.
Right.
As we fast forward, probably, I don't know, 5 years ish, right?
Something like that.
So she was probably like 10 or 11 before, and
now she's like 16.
Yeah, now she's like 16 or 17 or whatever.
Right.
So essentially, yeah, they're like scrubbing the floor. Her and her brother are scrubbing the floor, and she hears something. She gets up and looks in their laundry room, and it's a ghost lady.
Yep.
And so she's like, talking to the ghost lady, and she's like, "Oh, come on out. My brother doesn't believe you exist." And then the dad comes in the hallway and he goes, "Who are you talking to?" And she's like, "Oh, there's a person in the laundry room." He goes in there. "Oh, there's nobody in there." So like, he's going to beat her again because she's seeing ghosts.
Yep.
And instead of letting him beat her again, she essentially just runs away from home.
Yes, leaving her brother behind.
Leaving the brother behind, and it's stated that she never communicated with them again up to this point.
Yeah. Nobody's ever gonna love you, girl.
Yeah, nobody's ever gonna love you. Like, what?
Yeah.
Whatever.
So flash forward to now 2010, where she's working with Tucker and Specs. They're working on things. They have she has Warren, the good old boy's dog, is still there. They're setting up lights at her house, trying to do like voice activated lights. Tucker now has would you call it a mullet?
It is for sure a mullet, yes.
A long mullet at that.
Right. Which is like, do you know how long it would take to grow out the Mr. T hair into that mullet?
Right.
Like, I mean, and realistically, this would have been like 3 years later. But I think they're trying to say it's like just a few months later.
Something like that, yeah. But they're kind of living with her. They kind of know that she might need help. She gets a call from a guy saying, "Hey, I need your help." She's like, "Okay, what's your address?" And it's her house that she grew up in. Now she says to the boys, "It's a house. I wouldn't call it home because home is where you belong." Blah blah blah. It's like, "I can't have you guys go with me. This is something I have to do on my own." And they're like, "Oh, okay," and they leave. And she wakes up next morning ready to go, and they pull up in the spectral van. Like, "Yeah, this costs us $700, extra $200 for the detailing." So they drive to New Mexico in this clearly not okay truck. I'm surprised it made it there. And that's when she tells their
the story about how she left.
Yeah. So anyway, she goes to the guy's house and like just kind of perusing around a little bit, saying where this haunting's taking place. It was her old room. He had like a desk full of holy Bibles there. She's like, "I need help," blah blah blah. And then
he said that all the haunting is mainly happening in the one room, and that one room was her old room, her and her brother's old room.
Right.
And he put like a desk in front of the door.
Yeah,
so literally you could get in there, right?
Right. And she's just doing a little bit of investigating. She found her brother's whistle that he had that he'd wear around.
Right. That he lost back then, and she immediately found
under the bed, hanging there.
Right.
So he takes a picture of it and sends it to her brother, I think, right? Because she's trying to get a hold of her brother.
Well, not yet. Well, after the next step of this, they send it to the brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, because basically at this point she decides that she's going to spend the night in the room because she can see the ghosts easier at night.
Yeah.
So she spends the night in the room, and basically there's a ghost that lures her back down into the bunker basement. And then she kind of gets attacked, not really attacked, but accosted, I would say. And the whatever the ghost was steals the whistle.
Ah, yes.
And then they find her, and they she's kind of screams when she gets attacked, and they go down and find her, like, oh, what are you doing out of the room? I thought you were going to spend the night in the room. She's like, oh, the ghost led me down here and stole the whistle. And then that's it. And then the next morning is when they decide to go to like the local diner in town.
Probably the only diner
in town. And then like two young, attractive girls come in. And so Tucker and Specs are all trying to like, put their nerd moves on them.
Yeah.
And then their dad comes in, and that's when we realize that the dad is her brother.
Played by the president from X-Men.
Right.
Also the dad from the TV show Harry and the Hendersons.
Right, yeah.
I don't remember his name, but you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's like, do I really look that different? It's been like 65 years.
Yeah, it's like, okay. Yeah, from 16 to like 70. I mean, I don't know how old she is, but I mean, she's old. It's like, yeah, that's a significant difference.
But she immediately recognizes him. Like,
yeah,
bullshit.
They both immediately recognize each other. He gets mad immediately.
Yep.
Runs out. The girls go, he makes the girls come with him. He goes outside. They see him speeding away, but the girls weren't in his car. Which is like, why did you make them leave if they're not even in your car? So like the girls go and they have a conversation about, oh, are you really our aunt? Whatever. Like, oh, he'll come around. He just, he never talks about his childhood and blah, blah, blah. And that's when she says, when she decides to go back into the house and she wants him to be a part of it. That's when she gives them the picture of the whistle.
Yeah.
And she said, give him this picture and then tell him if he wants, he said, I don't have it now because the ghost took it. But if he wants it back, to come back to the house.
Now, yeah, I think is this was the point in time where one of the daughters, the nieces, say, "I have a power like you," or no? I thought it was briefly mentioned.
No, it's not till later because they basically, as soon as the dad gets that picture, he goes to the house and starts like looking through everything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where they are. I don't know where everyone went. Like, there's nowhere else for them to go.
Something that happened before that. This is when she goes back and she is attacked, and the ghost leads her to a chained up live girl in the basement, and she realizes that because like what Tucker's like, I see it too. That's a person,
right?
And they free her, and then poor Kirk Avocado, whatever you say his name is killed by Specs. Not only is he knocked with the head of the wrench, but his head is smashed by a bookcase.
Yeah, well, yeah, the bookcase is so heavy that they show it like it doesn't just fall on top of him; it like literally breaks over him.
Yeah,
and then but the pieces don't. It doesn't just break in half; it like forms around him. Like that's how heavy it was. Where like gravity compresses it against his body.
Yes. He dead.
Yeah. So yeah, he's dead.
Yeah. That's when the police tape. That's when Christian and his daughters go in there trying to find the whistle. That's why there's no one around.
Okay. Yeah. So they're all getting interviewed by the police. That's what I was gonna say. Something happened where they weren't there. And then they're looking around like to try to find this whistle. And that's when where the one girl gets called away, what she thinks is her dad's voice calling her into the basement. Right. But when she gets down there, she gets attacked by.
Apparently his name is Keyface.
Keyface? Okay. I'm going to call him.
I don't think he has a key for...
He doesn't. He's got key fingers, and he's got
a janitor. He's a janitor.
He's the key man. I call him
key man.
Janitor is 3 syllables. Key man is 2.
Key man.
Easier.
So the one, I don't remember the niece's name. He takes one key, shoves it into her throat, and stops her from screaming. Right. And then puts another key into her heart and knocks her unconscious.
Yeah, puts her in like a coma or something.
Yeah, and she is now trapped in the further.
That girl's name was Melissa, and the other girl's name is Imogen. Yeah,
Imogen. Yeah, that's an interesting name.
Yeah, it's like Imogen Poots.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think this is when Uh, Never mind. Yeah, so Elise goes back into the house trying to figure out what happens, and she finds like a tunnel to lead out of the bunker, and finds like suitcases in there, and finds out that, hey, crap, this is one of the girls. She was alive.
Yeah. She opens up the suitcase and because there's a picture of the lady in the suitcase,
Right,
and it was the lady that she saw in the laundry room. And that's when she realizes that it wasn't a ghost at all. That was a girl that her dad was kept chained up in the bunker.
Yeah, and there is one stack of suitcases, but behind that stack was another stack.
Right.
So she realized that the guy who was living there did the same things that her dad was doing. She didn't realize that. So yeah, it's just because, hey, this is astonishing that clearly there's something here that's causing the men in this house to do that. If it happened, let's say 60 years apart, some terrible shit's happening there with whatever demon or ghost is there causing them to do this.
Right.
So yeah, then what? Elise is kind of taken in the further and just stuck there. And then
she goes in of her own free will, but yeah, she does get stuck there.
Right.
She gets put in the jail.
Right. And this is when we realize that Imogen has powers like her. It's like, hey, I can go get her. And just like that, she's able to enter the further without any training.
She just has to get hypnotized.
Specs tries hypnotizing her with a flashlight. He's like, I've never done this before. I've never been hypnotized. Well, you won't know I'm doing wrong. And then Tucker's like, move aside, and gets out the metronome, which we see then in further being used to hypnotize. She is able to free Elise. She's led there by one of the dead woman's ghosts. Is able to free all the other souls, essentially hostages, whatever you want to call it, in the further. Yeah, and so what he tries to say, hey, trying to escape, here's your dad, you should punish him, and feed on the hatred and all that crap. She does start doing it. But
then Imogen convinces her, hey, this is bad. Like you're just doing that, and then she realizes, oh, I'm just feeding you with hate.
Yeah.
And so then she decides not to do it anymore. And then the dad actually helps her by trying to fight back against the key man.
Yeah, the key man, he's stabbed, disappears.
Right, yeah. So the dad gets killed. You realize the dad was just a prisoner of his too. So the dad gets killed, and then basically she tries to fight back, but the key man is too powerful and beats the crap out of her and is about to kill her. When she remembers that she has the whistle.
Right.
And then she blows the whistle, and it's the same bullshit fucking ending as all the rest of these damn movies where her fucking mom ghost mom comes out with a fucking lantern and scares the key man away.
Yes. But very important is they open up the wrong door and they leave it open till we see Dalton falling off the ladder. Right. The red door is essentially. Anyway, everyone comes out. Everyone's okay. Elise has a dream about the red-faced demon and Dalton, so kind of her dream journal type thing. And then she gets a call. It's Lorraine Lambert. And hey, yes, I'll help your son Dalton. Dun dun dun. Full circle. Series over, right?
Right.
I'll go into my first thoughts and rewatches of this is, while I found it very interesting that there's a lot more depth to the carnage that this demon or ghost, whatever you want to call it, was causing in the physical world, I found that to be interesting. And that, there was still a human side of it, and, her dad was chaining up women, hurting them. This this guy that lived there was doing the same thing. So there was an actually big human element behind this, which is something they really never went into. Not being a fully possession, but they weren't able to go any further. So essentially, the evil area influenced them to do bad things, presumably doing the same things that He-Man would do. Is my guess.
The guy that was there, that called Elise there to get her there, he was saying it was in his head.
Yeah.
It was telling him to do it. So it's not like a force that compels them to do it. It's like they are being controlled directly. It's like they're like in their brain, like literally controlling him. And like, again, as we've seen, he's probably using his keys on their brain to control them and make them do the things that it wants them to do.
Which is interesting for people that haven't gotten into the further or been possessed fully to be influenced like that. I don't think we really saw anything like that until this movie.
Well, we don't really see it in this movie either. We don't see how he does that. I'm just making a conjecture thing on how he does it. But we do get it that it was controlling his head. And that's probably why the dad was as shitty as he was. And that's maybe why he was so upset when she said that she was seeing dead things, because he was afraid that she was going to find the thing that was controlling him.
Possible.
And he was trying to keep, because he never had them be involved with the girl in the basement, right?
Right.
So like, he was trying to keep them away from that. So he was like trying to follow that thing's rules, but also trying to raise the kids as well. Obviously not well. He was, crazy asshole that put the shit on the kids. So he's not dealing with it well, but I think in his mind, he was trying to like compartmentalize it and try to keep them out of it.
Well, and I think him being his kids probably just fed the He-Man even more.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because then the kids hate him for beating him and treating him like that. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a bad. I'm not saying it was a good move on his part. I'm just saying I think that's what he was trying to do, and in his mind, he was keeping them safe,
right?
By doing that. Obviously, he was not, and obviously, it's bad news. But I mean, he didn't know what would feed the thing. He didn't know what was going on. He just knew that he was being controlled.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is this a must watch, rewatch for me? Not necessarily. I don't think I watched this until a year after this came out, because after Insidious Chapter 3, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of done with this franchise. I'm like, I don't necessarily care about the last key. It took me a while to watch it. What were your first thoughts? Your first watch?
Yeah, I mean, more or less. I mean, it's just the same. I mean, it's basically the same kind of thing, to where it's like there's an interesting thing. They don't give you enough of it. They don't tell you what's really going on. They don't even give you hints as to what's really going on. And again, if it was presented better, that might have been okay, but it's not. Like, you get nothing, and that's like, I don't understand why they do that. The last movie and this movie both do the same thing, when Chapter 2 did it so well. And I don't understand like why. I really felt like 2 hit their stride. If they would have continued on the vein of 2, having like the 2 different paths like that, I think it would have been. I think I would have like enjoyed the franchise for sure.
Yeah,
but they don't. Like they come up with these interesting characters that are like, oh, these are the bad guys, and literally that's it. They're just bad guy. This is what they do. Done. Like, this one tried to give you a little bit more, but like, you're like, okay, well, they're doing this, but why? Nope, no answers. No, not even like a possible question or anything. Nothing at all. You get nothing.
I mean, did you enjoy at least the human side of it? The in the headness? I mean, obviously more lore. I mean, it was I still think something different.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to go into my highs, I will get into it more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the one high that I really liked in here was that first twist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was where, like, you go in the basement and she's like, oh, there's just another, ghost that she's seeing in the corner, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize that it's not a ghost, right? And it's like, what? And then not only do you realize it's not a ghost, and you're like, well, how the hell did a person live down there? Because at this point, you're not assuming that like the guy that called her for help, you're like, why would that guy be a bad guy? Why would he call someone for help if he's a bad guy,
right?
Right. But no, it really is him. And he comes down there like with a gun, going like, I have to kill everybody now because you can't, you're not supposed to have found this. But again, I don't know how they would have gotten in there because they literally had to like chip away like paint and rust to get to the keyhole. So like, how the hell were they opening the door before that? But anyway, but it doesn't matter. But I mean, that was genuinely interesting. That was like, again, at that point, I was like, oh, okay, maybe we're gonna have some more interesting, fun story elements like the chapter 2 in this one. But that's really it. So that was good. I just wish they would have had more of that.
Right.
Again, I mean, the Keyman design is great. I mean, like, genuinely scary. That's messed up. You got little keys in your hands that can like control people by like making a little keyhole on their body and then sticking your key in and locking it or unlocking it, whatever. Like, you know, make people stop screaming by like turning off their voice box, make people go into a coma by like, you know, turning it like different parts of their body on and off. Like, that's interesting. That's like very cool. They could have done a lot of cool stuff with that. What did they do with that? That's it. That's it. Like, you get that little bit of taste like, oh, this is a really cool thing. Where are they going to go with this? Nowhere. They go nowhere. Those are the only things he ever does. You know, he can do a lot more than that, but he never does. And we never get even a taste of what else could be there. So again, Keyman, very, very cool. Design is interesting. Powers are interesting, but they like, you just get that little surface thing. Just like this, the chapter 3, you get nothing better than that. Nothing outside of that.
Right.
And then of course Warren, because we all love Warren. Yeah.
Yes. Any other highlights?
No.
Okay. No, I agree. The key man reminded me of Vecna with key fingers. A bit.
No, I mean, yeah, it's similar, sure.
No, like I agree with you. The design and the story is great. You know, it'd be like, okay, I mean, how long has he been there? Yeah, obviously he was weak because it's been like 50 years of no one spreading hatred and violence in the house, but obviously then whatever his name is, you know, Kirk was there and doing it, you know, to see his true potential. Like, he was able to cause more harm without possessing people fully than any other entity we've ever seen.
Right. And like I said, that's what was the thing to where like he was like literally able to like use his key hands on real people in the real world that aren't visiting him in the further. Like, that would have been very interesting. I mean, it might have taken a lot of time to do whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But again, interesting character, interesting powers, could have gone in a lot of interesting directions. Did it go any of those directions? No. It literally went in the one direction that was like made it boring, and that's the direction it used.
Right. And I guess I as a highlight, I do like the fact that is essentially Elise that caused her own death by leaving that door open to Dalton. Like, she was she caused it. She caused everything that happened in this franchise to happen at that point going forward. I think that was a good tie-in, a good wraparound, a good, I'd say, closing chapter of the series to have ended with that. And Warren, but that's about it. I guess and the acting was better in this one than the last one. I think they at least didn't really have the stupid one-liners.
Okay, well, I'll say this: the acting was better for some people. Okay, like in the last movie, everyone was bad, just across the board, right? And this one, some people were bad, some people were okay. Like, Tucker and Specs were pretty not great in this one. There was like a lot of like goofy one-liners. They were like all stumbling all over each other, like trying to ask out the girl, and there was just stupid, cheesy stuff. At least again had just the way that she was acting in this one, it was just not great. Maybe I just don't like her acting. I don't know what it is, but I don't think I've seen anything that I really enjoy her in. I've seen movies that she's in that are good, and those usually she's in a supporting role in those movies. Yes. And I think she does good at that. And it's like when she's in the lead, I don't know if it just wears on me after a while, or I don't know what it is. I didn't particularly like her acting in this. So yeah, I'd say like her and Specs and Tucker were not great, but like I think the two daughters did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought they did great. I think Kirk did a fantastic job. Like, I think he was like by far the best in the whole movie, even though he was barely in it. I mean, he was only in like the first third of the movie.
Right.
But I thought he did fantastic. Like, he outshined everybody in that little bit of time that he was in there.
Yeah.
That was great.
Hold on, I have one more highlight before you get to your low points.
Yeah.
They did not dub young Elise voices with a
Well, thankfully, that would have been
highlight. They didn't do that.
Like a 10-year-old girl with a 60 or 70-year-old woman's voice. It's ridiculous.
All right.
Yeah. And again, I mean, this one is. I know you talked about how it circled back to the first one, and then you liked that. I didn't like that. I thought it was very cheesy and forced. The way that they did that, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, why would they bother doing that? Like, if they do that, they're essentially saying we're not going to make any more sequels.
Yes.
Why? Why would you purposely, cut off your own legs? I mean, what's the point of that? Is that now it's going to be even more difficult for you to like, oh, we're going to do another sequel. We're going to fit it in between 3 and The Last Key. What are we going to call it? 3.5? I mean, what are you going to call
it? Yeah.
Anyway, that was goofy. But I think the one thing that really upset me is, again, the Key Man, great design. Just there's no lore there, man. Like, there's nothing. Like, they get this great character, great powers, great, antagonist, and they literally just falls flat. Like, oh, he's scary, spooky, can do this stuff. Oh, no, what are they going to do about it? You don't have to do anything because he never uses it again.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that's it. It's like, okay, like this guy would have been very scary. It would have been very cool to like explore this, why don't we go back and find out who this is? How many other people has he done this to? Like, maybe we go back to like, well, I mean, this is New Mexico. So we'll go back to like the Wild West or something.
Yeah.
Right? Something like, I mean, I'm not saying you have a whole movie there. I mean, maybe, but but I'm saying like it could have shown that it goes back all the way. Right. Or something, like give you something like the origin of this character, who it is. Again, it's just like the Breathing Man. We get nothing. We get this like well-designed antagonist character who has like, oh, we can do these evil things, and then just like doesn't do it. They're just there to be defeated. Again, the stupid mommy rescue thing. I mean, they did the same ending like 3 times in a row. It's like, come on, man. Like, you guys can think of something better than that.
Clearly not.
Yeah. But again, okay, so this guy, the Key Man, controls you to keep girls in the basement, right?
Yep.
Why?
That's a great question.
Right. Like, yeah, it's cool. It's interesting. Like, oh, wow, that's messed up. Well, you think about it. What is he going to do with them? Like, what's the point? Like, obviously, he's making them do this very specific set of tasks because it wants that. Why?
Yeah.
No, you got nothing. You got nothing at all. It's there because it's a bad thing. And you're like, oh, he's definitely bad because he's doing bad stuff. But we don't get any, like, flavor to this. We get no fluff. Nothing. It's just all surface.
You're saying it's a vending machine sandwich where it looks really good, but you open up the lid, it's just the turkey and tomato is just like the first third of the sandwich.
Yeah, you get like a 1/4-inch strip at the front of the bread, so it looks good from the front, and then you open it up and there's nothing in there. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And then there's supposed to be a mayonnaise packet in there, and you don't even get that.
Right.
So you get like a 2 pieces of bread and a tiny strip of turkey and cheese.
For $5. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Outrageous amounts of money. And you probably get like a nasty wilted piece of lettuce in there too.
Yep.
But anyway, I'm just saying, like, there's so much potential for that, and it just falls flat. I don't understand. Like, all these elements could have made something good, and they literally picked the worst path for all of these things. And it's just upsetting to see what it could have been, and then it just ends up as flat as it does. It's upsetting.
Yes. It definitely ties into the title still of Forgotten Threads, that they just pulled on it. See where it went.
Right. Yeah. Nothing.
Nope. All right, then number of unnecessary jump scare music out of 10 for you on this one.
This one I will give a 4.5 unnecessary jump scare music out of 10. I like it better than the last one. There was enough elements there that it was fun, more fun than 3, but still not enough to be not as good as the second one.
Yeah, completely agree. I'm giving it 6 unnecessary jump scare music out of 10. Is it a decent entry? Yes, but it is what it is. Yeah, it's, as we've discussed on this offline, I've discussed with other people like, oh, these are some of the greatest PG-13 horror movies of all time.
It's an oxymoron. No such thing.
Yes. I mean, I might argue that Poltergeist is one of the best PG-13 horror movies of all time.
With real skeletons.
Right. You know what I mean, though? That movie has better lore than this stuff. This is just...
Right. Again, yeah.
This is popcorn horror.
Right. Yeah, they give you some, at least depth to that. Not a lot, but they tell you, all this bad stuff's happening because you're at an Indian burial ground. They're like, okay, at least we know why.
Right.
These movies don't even give you the why. It's like, bad things are here. Oh, that sucks. That's it. That's all you get.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, let's call it popcorn horror. Turn off your brain and get easily taken by the jump scares and eat your popcorn.
Well, again, PG-13, I guess that's where you need to be at.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into this. Spoiler warning again. For anyone who's listened to this has not seen Insidious the Red Door, make sure to check that out first. Unless you want to be spoiled. This first. Up to you.
Yeah, big spoiler. You're not missing much.
No. Let's just say this movie inspired the title of this episode.
Right. Yeah. So it's Insidious the Red Door, which just came out. But yeah, so it opens up on a funeral.
Yep.
Right. Josh's mom died because she didn't sign on for this movie, so they had to kill her off. So
right.
and they just killed her off immediately. They don't even say why. It's just she's gone. And we see that in the time, because it's like real time has passed, like 10 years have passed.
Right.
So we see that in the time that we haven't seen the Lambert family, that Josh and Renee have gotten a divorce, and the kids are living with Renee. And he doesn't really talk. He doesn't really talk to her anymore, and he doesn't seem to be connected to his kids at all.
Right.
And as we learned just going along here, he's very, very clouded. He can't think straight. He can't have real complete thoughts. He can't think it for the future. Everything is just kind of piecemeal. He feels like parts of himself are missing. And he has a hard time connecting with his family and his kids because of that. And it sounds like he's also having a hard time at work and career, and that basically his whole rest of his life
right
is just not doing well. So the wife, Renee, suggests that, hey, maybe you should reconnect with Dalton. He's going away to college now. Why don't you drive him up to college and you guys can bond while you go out there? Okay, so they do that. And then there's not a whole lot of bonding happening. I'm assuming it's a really long drive, and I think the 2 sentences they said to each other was probably all the dialogue that happened.
Entirely possible.
Right.
It's still same California, but Northern California, so 6-hour drive.
Right. Yeah, so Dalton is very into art. We do see a picture that he drew of Josh's mom. It's a very, very good picture, and he's always says that, oh, it looks like she's hiding something or missing something. Right. So they walk him into the dorm. He drops him off in the dorm. He's gets us this flyer for a frat party. He's like, oh, you should go to this frat party. And he's like, you don't even know me at all, Dad. I would go to a
God.
frat party. Ugh. He's like, you don't have to join the frat, just go to the party.
Right.
Which is like fair enough. I guess. I don't know. I've never been to a frat party, I guess. But he's like, you should go do that. And he's like, oh, whatever, dad. Like, yeah, they're just like, they don't necessarily know each other, right? But the teenagers, of course, going to be upset with him. So they're like in the room, like kind of sort of, fighting about, he's like upset that he's got pictures of everybody else in his family up on the wall, but he doesn't have a picture of the dad. He's like, oh, I'm not good enough to make your wall. It's like, okay, dude. And then his roommate comes in, who is a woman, right? And like they're like, "Oh my god, a woman!" And he's like, "Yeah, this is like a liberal arts school. Like, yes, the dorms are co-ed, and they're all like the dad is like having a heart attack, like he's getting the vapors. Like seriously, you can tell he's like very upset. And they're like, "Okay, dude, what's going on?" And the kid is like,
somebody think of the children,
right? And the kid is like, "Oh, I don't know if I like this or not." And she's like, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go." I'm going to go talk to the people to see if I can get a better room. Like she can see the vibe immediately and she just leaves. And then she, the dad basically, they kind of have a little snotty fight and he leaves. And basically saying like, oh, maybe you should go get some help because you're obviously messed up.
And at this point in time, it becomes two separate movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so dad leaves and then the roommate comes back and she's like, oh yeah, they can't change the room until tomorrow. So you're stuck with me. And then they proceed to like get along. Right? They're like hanging out and talking, and they seem
What's
to be
the weirdest thing about you.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. What is she? Oh, what was hers? Oh, she orders food in an English accent and eats it with a monocle or something
on Thursdays or something like that.
Yeah, whatever it was. And he's like, I eat packets of oatmeal dry.
Right.
What? Like, wouldn't that just suck all the moisture out of your body?
Funny point. That? We do see his dad do the same thing later.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, oh, that's where he gets it from. But like, I would feel like it would suck all the moisture out of my body, dude. Like, oh, I could not do that. But anyway, and she's like, yeah, we got to work on you. And anyway, they decide to they're getting along just fine, and they decide to go to this frat party. Right.
He also tells her that he sleeps with the nightlight.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So they decide to go to this frat party. So they go to this frat party, and it's like, I don't know, your typical frat party, but
2023.
Yeah. So there's like this guy that we're focused on. I don't know if he's supposed to be the head of the frat or what. But he's dressed like a baby. And then if you see there's a guy out front, handing out treats or whatever. I'm pretty sure he was a pledge. That's why he was dressed like a baby, right? Because they make you do stupid things. So that's why I'm like, okay, he can't be the leader of the frat because he's dressed like a pledge. I was very confused as to what they were trying to I don't know. I just don't think they do frat rules or something. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out if this guy is the leader of the frat or if he's just a pledge or what. But he has his own room in the frat house, so I'm guessing he's at least a member. Yes. But he basically gets up and gives a speech, and the speech is just designed to make you dislike him.
Nick the Dick.
Yeah, Nick the Dick, and he talks about what taking masculinity back or so. I don't know. It's some weird.
It's essentially he is the frat from the newest Black Christmas.
Right. Yeah. It's basically, again, like I said, this his little speech is precision crafted to make everyone dislike this guy. So they're like, yeah, we don't like this guy. So what are we going to do? We're going to go, the roommate wants to go break into the guy's room and go find, look through his stuff.
Yes.
Okay, whatever. Fair enough. So they go upstairs and they're in his room and they're looking for his stuff. And then, Dalton basically has a vision, right? So we know he's seeing ghosts, but he doesn't know because, his mind was erased at the end of the second movie.
Right.
In addition to his dad. So he sees Nick the Dick talks about how, don't get too drunk where we have another incident in the house. Oh, what's the incident? And so we talk about, when he sees the ghost, it's this ghost that's puking uncontrollably.
Right.
And it's when he gets close to it, it keeps screaming, shut the door, shut the door, shut the door. And the ghost is obviously following him around, trying to show him something. It really felt like the scene from The Sixth Sense,
Yes.
when that girl was throwing
With
up.
Misha,
And like trying to show him something. It really felt like that.
Yes.
Like, because like he was there and like, oh, we need to show you something, whatever. So, they have like a weird scare with, the guy comes back to his room and they have to like pretend like they're making out to like, oh, we were just looking for a room. Sorry, we'll leave.
Shortly after he Nick the Dick puked on his face that the Dalton imagined. But no one
Nick
saw.
the Dick didn't. It was that ghost guy puked on his face.
Yeah.
Right.
But right, he just imagined that was a jump scare, and then also after he thought he got vomited out, he's making out with Chris.
Right.
I think her name is.
Yeah, her name is Chris.
Yeah.
So they go home and he's like, yeah, I think I saw like a ghost of the person that was supposed to be that incident. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. And so now she's in her own room now, but they still like hang out together all the time. So they're like, basically, okay, let's go back and figure out. I guess I should say like right before he saw that ghost, because he's going to like art school. And so he gets this teacher that he really, really likes. And this teacher,
the bitch.
Well, yeah, she is, but whatever. People like different teaching techniques, I guess. But she basically like uses like a kind of form of hypnosis to like get a person to like draw what's truly in their heart, kind of thing. Whatever that is.
She counts just backwards from 10. He essentially is able to revert back into the further for the first time in 10 years.
Right, yeah, because he gets hypnotized, so he goes back in there. But anyway, he kind of figures out that he thinks that's why he was able to see this ghost at the frat house, because that like opened something up in him.
Right.
So he talks to her and he's like, okay, like we need to go back into that frat house. I think that person was trying to show me something. Like we need to go back in there and I need to find out what the truth is. Right.
Yes.
So they sneak back in, and they're like, oh, where's Nick's room? And they're like, oh, it's upstairs. Like they don't question it at all. So they go up there, and he's in the room with another girl. I don't know what they're like studying or something. I don't know what they're doing.
But he has like powder on his face.
Well, it's like a mask. It's like,
yeah.
Whatever it is. So anyway, so they go in this other room, and they, do the same counting down from 10 things that he can like, astrally project. So he astrally projects and he goes in the room and he's like watching them talking and stuff. And he sees that Nick the Dick has like, belly issues and goes in the bathroom and is like, I'm going to be a while. But then he does the whole like, shut the door thing, right? Like,
yeah.
So, we're going to find out what's actually going on. So at that point, some other entity comes out and grabs Chris and like starts strangling.
Right.
And then he like, has to like run back to the room. And I should also stress the point that Chris is the one that was pushing him to do this stuff.
Right. Because he did go, it's like, hey, he's showed her he's able to astral project by going up to the room and playing her, whatever the hell that's called.
Hooter.
The Hooter.
Well, she called it a Hooter. I don't know what it's really called.
You want to blow my Hooter?
Yeah, she called it a Hooter. Yes. So yeah, she was her idea to do this. She was the one that pushed him, and this is unfortunate. She shows him this YouTube video, which is I feel so bad for Specs and Tucker because it's the only cameo they get is they get to be the YouTube people talking about astral projection, and that's it. That's their entire contribution to this movie after being like at least supporting characters in all 4 films before this one, and in this one they're reduced to a cameo. It's very bullshit. And then there's also a cameo from Elise. Talking about astral projection.
And
Carl. That's it. And Carl. Well, Carl was like in the beginning at the funeral.
And that was it. Right. That literally cameos for all these people. So, that just, I guess we should mention the cameos because they're very important. So, it was her idea for him to go back there and find out what was going on. She was the one that pushed him to do it. All that blah, blah, blah bullshit, right? So, she like almost gets strangled by whatever this other entity is. He manages to get back in the body and they come back and she's saved and he's okay. They get kicked out of the frat house and she gets very upset at him. Like, why did you make me do this? Right? Like, this is very dangerous. You shouldn't have made me do this. Like, it was your idea. Right? Yeah.
Like, it was your idea. What the hell are you talking about? So she runs off in a huff and then he goes home all upset. Right? And then that whole subplot is never revisited.
It's a forgotten
It's completely gone. right? Like, you think that's what the whole movie is gonna be about. Nope. And like, that's done. So like, I guess that's act one, right? Act one done.
And what he's drawing in the art school is the red door.
Right. Yeah. So like,
that's
now
that's what was channeled when he was hypnotized. He started drawing it.
Right. Yeah. So now he goes back, and because his friend won't talk to him, and he's upset, and he doesn't know what to do, so he decides to, keep practicing this astral projection thing and find out what this red door is all about.
He calls his brother too.
Well, yeah, he calls his brother to like give him updates. I think one, they needed the brother to be in this movie.
Well, once again, we also got to point out that the sister was at the funeral, and then she's out of the movie.
Oh yeah, no, she is never ever mentioned or shown again. The one brother, he has to be there to answer the phone once, and then like show people a picture later, and then that's it.
Yes.
But yeah, so like with these visions of this red door, he starts getting visions of his dad being like violent and attacking him, and he doesn't know what these visions mean because obviously he doesn't remember that point of his life. I guess this was a good time to cut back over to
the movie B.
Yeah, movie B, which is Josh trying to figure out what's going on, right? Because Dalton basically convinces him, yeah, there is something wrong with me. I need to figure out what it is. So he's like, trying to figure out, what the deal is. He gets like an MRI where he gets like kind of hypnotized, and then, sees a ghost in there. And so, but he has like this ghostly thing, and the doctor's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing like that
fell
happened.
Asleep.
Right. Yeah. You fell asleep. You were asleep for 15 minutes or whatever it was. And like, all this,
doctor's gone.
Yeah. The doctor's, gone. And again, he's like just trying to figure out what's going on. And then he decides to go back to, Renee, to ask her like, hey, like, I'm kind of getting these weird flashes of things that like are happening. Like, what's going on? And she basically just straight up tells him what happened.
Well, before this, he's playing memory games, and that he keeps seeing a ghost get closer and closer to him. We see him, and then he gets in the car, getting closer and closer to him. But not the Black Bride, just some random.
Well, he kind of gets attacked a bit.
Yeah.
Like this is after the doctor thing, so like he kind of can realize he can go into the further. He doesn't know what it is yet.
Right.
But anyway, he gets attacked by this ghost, and the ghost like knocks it, like he's dressed like in the 70s, and he's got like a hole in his head or something. And he like pushes him into this closet, and that makes
which was his mom's. Clearly, he was taking care of his mom that was sick.
Right.
And it's his mom's room that he just happens to go into, like for the first time since she died. It seems like.
Right. Yeah. And then he finds this old box, and he opens up the box, and there's a bunch of pictures and stuff, and it's like obviously like his dad.
Right.
Or he suspects that it's his dad. Anyway, so
or something like that.
Right. Well, it's like Billy Burton. It's like a totally different last name.
Yeah.
So he goes and finds the pictures of this person, and he goes and like researches the whole thing, and he finds out
microfiche.
And microfiche. And he finds out that this was his dad, and that his dad didn't just leave the family, like he was committed to a mental home, like a loony bin, right?
Yeah.
And it was because he was seeing ghosts and stuff. And so he realizes that, the dad had the same gift that I have. And it drove him crazy, and everybody else thought he was crazy. And like, he basically committed suicide in the mental hospital.
Left a note that says, "This ends with me."
Right. Basically saying like, I don't want to put anybody through this kind of thing, not knowing at that time that that his mom was pregnant with him.
Right.
So like he gets a little bit of like knowledge about, okay, this was my dad, and this came from my dad's side of the family. And that it goes, trying to find out more information. Obviously his mom is already dead. And he goes to Renee at this point, like asking her like, what's going on? Like, there's a lot of stuff I don't remember. I'm getting little bits and pieces of stuff, like, tell me what's going on. And then again, that's what she tells him, what happened, with the whole, you can, astrally project, and, basically tells him the plot of the movie, of the first two movies, and that you got taken over by an evil ghost, and that's why you didn't want to remember anything. And he's like, why would you do that? And she's like, you're the one that, you were a part of it. You're the one that wanted it.
I just couldn't stand anymore. We could have worked through it.
Yeah.
You tried killing us.
Yeah. Well, again, like at the end of the second movie, he was totally on board with it. So it wasn't, but I mean, again, now he doesn't remember it. Well, we'll get into the my feelings on it later. But so anyway, like as they're doing that, and like he gets upset and mad, like why would you ever do this to me? He goes to walk out the door, and then that's when the younger son walks in and like, hey, did you see this picture?
Is that you?
Right. So it's like as Dalton was like painting, he's kind of like going into the further and doing like stream of consciousness painting when he's in there.
Yeah.
He's basically painting a picture of his dad in front of the door with a hammer, which is him from the second one when he was trying to attack him.
Right.
And so like, he took a picture of it and sent it to the brother. The brother shows them like, oh no, he remembered what happened, but he doesn't know the whole thing, which means he's back in the further, he's going to get, the red-faced man is going to get him. We need to go find him.
Yes.
And they don't go there physically.
Nope.
They just sit the dad down and go, okay, you got to go and get him. And then cut back to movie A.
Yes.
And then, Dalton is now kind of like, I guess he like makes up a bit with Chris. But he's already like kind of like gone at this point. Like he's been in and out of the further so much that he's kind of like gone. So when he like she comes down and he goes back in the further again one more time with her there, but someone else comes back in his body. The red-faced man, I'm guessing. So the red-faced man is like attacking her, and all kinds of bad, horrible things are happening. And then we see him back in the same room with Tiny Tim playing as he was in. Was that the first one? Yeah, it was the first one. Yeah. So we see him in that same room there, and then his dad just miraculously pops up, and
I remember.
Yeah, I remember. I'm going to try to save you. So he comes at him with a hammer, of course. So Dalton doesn't remember at this point. He's having flashbacks of like the dad attacking him, but then he just like brings the hammer down and knocks the chains off to like get him out. So then they kind of like work together. They realize that, oh, I really do love you, Dad.
Right.
And then they work their stuff through, and they get back out through the red door and back to the body and back to reality.
Dalton does.
Right.
Dalton gets back to his body, and Josh is like, the demon's trying to get through a door. He's like, this ends with me.
Right.
And holding it back. And then Dalton starts painting the red door with like slop, it looks like.
Yeah, like the slowest running like black tar paint I've ever seen.
And so the red door gets painted black. And then the dad's able to come back to his body. They call, hey, we're all safe now. We can be a family again.
Yep.
Then he gets out of he leaves, for the night because, his song goes, is that your house? Maybe one day we'll be again. And it's Elise. Do I know you? No, but your mother says hi.
Right. And that's the thing, like, it just pissed me off that even at the end of the movie, after all that shit, like, he still doesn't remember everything.
Right.
Like, that sucks.
Dalton remembers everything.
Well, pretty much, yeah. But yeah, he still thinks he doesn't remember. I'm like, that's stupid, and that sucks.
And then we stayed for the post-credit scene where the light over the black door turns on. It's still something there, but it's black door.
Now it's a black door.
Yeah. Let's get into our first thoughts, shall we? Why don't you go ahead and go first?
Yeah, dude. Again, the movie, the hard left turn that this movie takes is very off-putting. Like, again, like basically you think you know what the movie's going to be, and then it changes, and then it never goes back to that. So like they spend like what a good 40 minutes, I would say, maybe even longer on that part of it. The whole frat house thing.
Yes.
Like there's like probably, I would say the first 45 minutes of the movie are, after we get past the introductions, that's basically what the movie is about.
Right.
Is trying to figure out what's going on there. And then after that whole thing happens and they leave the frat house, then it becomes something completely different. And they never, ever revisit that at all. I think it's even worse than having a cool character with no lore is like having a an entire movie that you think the plot is about, and then just like literally like neutering it halfway through, and then starting over because now you only have another 45 minutes to do another movie. So like
Yes.
now you have another mini 45-minute movie that has nothing to do with the first 45 minutes.
Correct.
I was just like waiting for the shut the door thing to mean something. I was waiting for, this puking ghost to like make an appearance or like something where you understand what it's supposed to mean or something. Nope. Nope. Never mentioned again. Never talked about again. It was just bizarre. Like I was sitting at the end of the movie going like, okay, maybe the post-credit scene is going to say something about it. No, nothing at all.
Yes. And that's why this is Forgotten Threads, is because they're like, you're right. Halfway through the movie, like, this isn't really working. So we're just going to stop right here and just go do something else instead.
Right.
And yeah. It's really the thing is it's Nick the Dick, right? And the frat house ghost. And this might be the problem, is that we are comparing it to Sixth Sense, where we find the reasoning behind these ghosts and these ghosts coming to people.
Right.
You know
Again,
what I mean? Like,
that's what it basically is. Like the first 45 minutes of the movie tries to be like the Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Then just completely abandons it. And then has like another mini version of the same shit they've been doing for the entire franchise.
Right. And another first thought was, I don't think we needed to revisit the Lambert family.
I think it would have been fine to have a last hurrah. I just don't think this was it. No. This didn't make any sense. Half the people from the rest of the franchise aren't even there.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
And Rose Byron's barely in it.
Yeah,
too.
I was gonna say, she's like barely in it. Yeah. She's literally in like 2 scenes. Like the younger brother and the daughter are gone. Elise, 2 cameos, right? Specs
Carl
and Tucker, a cameo. Yeah, Carl is like, a tiny bit extended cameo. That's it.
Yeah.
Like the rest of it is like a guy trying to like, get along with his son. It's
yes.
like, I don't understand. Yeah, I don't get what we're doing. I know, Patrick Wilson made this movie. Maybe he was like, having trouble with talking to his son at the time or something.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't understand what the point of this was, what he was trying to do. But he like, again, for first 45 minutes of the movie, totally different movie. The last 45 minutes is like a smaller, shoddier version of what they've been doing in this franchise so far.
Oh, we also should mention that his dad is the ghost that was following him and helps him out at the end too. So we have that moment as well.
Oh yeah,
that we've had for the past 2 other ones. So.
Of course.
Yeah. All right. What are your highlights?
Highlights is, I liked that subplot with the Nick the Dick and the finding out what was going on with the puking ghost. Like I thought that was genuinely interesting. Like I wanted to know what was going on there. Right.
Right.
It seemed like fun. Like he was getting to know his roommate. Like I don't think there was really going to be a romantic thing there, but I thought they had good chemistry. Like like talking, like comedy kind of chemistry there. I thought it was. I thought they played it well together. Like as Dalton did a decent job acting. I thought the roommate did a good job. Like again, they worked well together, and I thought it was going to be like again the interesting part of chapter 2 where they were investigating what was going on with this ghost. I thought it was going to be that again, right? It started to. It really started to, and then it just stopped, and then it just nope. Scratch that. We're just going to go back to the same old shit we've been doing. But now we have less time to do it. So anyway, good part is the movie, the first 45 minutes, focusing on the puking guy, right?
Yes.
And then I would say, the low point is the other half of the movie.
Yeah.
Let's see, what other high points would there be? The art. I thought the art style in the movie was very cool. like the art that he was painting in the red door, like all the art that he had on his wall, all the art that he had created.
All the charcoal art? Yeah.
I thought that was very cool. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the actor doing that. I'm pretty sure whatever artist they had doing it, I thought it was very cool. I like that a lot.
Yes.
I thought they did a great job with the art. I thought that really, showed kind of like, just normal art in the surface, but it had like a little bit of darkness behind it, which is like, exactly what they're trying to get across with him. Like, he felt like he was a normal kid, but there was something dark inside of him and he didn't quite know what it was.
Right.
And I think they pulled that off. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I agree. I also agree with your highlights. I would have preferred to have seen that thread fully fleshed out. And Chris and Dalton had good chemistry. They seemed like they were fun roommates. They remind me a bit of Margot and Elliot from Visions.
Okay, I can see that.
Right? And the puking ghost would have been the pervert ghost that was there in the house.
Right.
But not really getting a full backstory necessarily for it. I thought Patrick Wilson did a good job in this too. Hands down better than the first one.
Yeah, no, I mean he wasn't. I'm not gonna say he was bad in this. I mean he was passable. It was fine. I just didn't like this story.
Right.
I didn't like the story of the part of the movie that he was in. I just thought it was like just goofy, forced, and like just again rehashing the same old bullshit.
I mean, he was showing a lot more range of emotions in this one as well.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Than the first one.
Right.
And the art teacher, that was an interesting art class. I know I would never be able to deal with a teacher like that.
Yeah, like literally, like first thing is like, oh, put up your best thing from your portfolio. The best thing you've ever made, the thing you're most proud of. And everybody puts up the thing they're most proud of, and they're smiling and standing there. And she goes, now tear it up. And everybody's like, no. Like, I spent a lot of time on this. Like, why would I just tear it up? And she's like, tear it up. And he's like, no. And she's like, well, like, get out of here. You already quit.
Right.
What?
I didn't quit.
Yeah, you did. Like, just left. Like, I would have been like, no thanks. I mean, but, they like just stayed there. Like, he just left. He just let her force him out. Like, obviously you don't care that much if you just walk out.
And then there were like
bizarre.
5 students left in the class.
Right. It was so bizarre. I'm like, this is just odd. But whatever. Like I said, different people got their different methods, I guess.
I do like the art that she was showing because it was Kronos. The Kronos painting of him devouring his children.
Yeah, Saturn, right.
Saturn, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Saturn. Which we see a lot. That's a very common thing. And I think that worked as a foreshadowing aspect of it, of the father devouring the child, which the idea was with Josh's dad and then Josh and stuff like that. Now the art teacher reminded me a lot of the madam from Suspiria.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. I know better than you. I'm a teacher instead of the artist. I don't know.
Sure.
Well, what about your low points other than the second half?
Okay. A low point. Like this really, really bothered me. Like I really felt like this is messed up. Is that okay? The wife, Renee, and the mother. I mean, the mother died obviously in the beginning of this movie, but she was there for 10 years seeing this.
Yeah.
Patrick Wilson, the poor guy, is so clouded that he can't even give his all to his wife and his children anymore. And instead of helping him through it, she just gets a divorce and lets him, and just lets him drift away. I mean, he's obviously struggling with his memory. He's struggling with work. He's struggling with his family. He's struggling with life in general. And he has this feeling like he's missing something and he's clouded and he can't, live his life because there's a block preventing him from doing anything. And she sits there, watches all this happen, and then just goes, yeah, sorry, I'm divorced. I'm out. I can't deal with this shit anymore. Like,
Right.
can't you guys be like, hey, maybe we should like give him his memory back? It's obviously affecting his whole life. But no, they sit there and let him suffer for 10 years.
Yes.
10 years they let him suffer, like feeling like there's something missing from his life, and they just let it go. Yeah, oh yeah, go ahead and divorce me. Go live in, go live with your mom and help her when she's sick and stuff. Like, what is wrong with you? Why would you ever do that? Like, how could you do that to someone knowing you know exactly what is wrong with them?
Yes.
That was just horrible. I don't understand how anybody could do that.
No. And he's like, she's like, I understand it wasn't you that tried to kill us, but I'm out.
Okay, and that's genuine too. Again, like, you may not ever be able to get over that trauma. I don't blame her for that. I'm not saying that she needs to be a loving wife or anything. I'm just saying that, you let him suffer knowing what is wrong with them. You know what I mean? Like, you can tell him and help him, get that memory back and still divorce him. I'm not faulting you for divorcing him. That's a hard thing to get over.
Yeah.
But again, like the mom and her just like let that thing suffer because they're like, oh, well, we don't ever want to let it come back. Like, well, you need to work with people like Elise. I'm sure Elise knows other people that can do it.
Well, Carl hypnotized him. Carl's still alive. Hey, Carl, what do you think?
Right. Yeah. Like, exactly. Like, that was another low point is like, when things are going down, why wouldn't they call the people that helped them before? Why wouldn't they call Specs and Tucker?
Carl, yeah.
Why wouldn't they call Carl? You know what I mean? Well, I mean, Specs and Tucker probably would have called Carl themselves, but I mean, Carl was literally there the whole time. I mean, again, they're like a part of this. If they would have called them, they would have been there. And then, well, that's third thing I hate about this movie is the cameos were just ridiculous. Like, you take people, like, literally the last, 2 movies have only been Specs and Tucker and Elise.
Yeah.
And you revert them back to cameos?
Yep.
I mean, that's horrible. Yeah, their alone movies didn't do all that well, but like, come on, man. At least let them be their
forward.
Yeah, at least let them be their supporting character. Like, you could have easily wrote something in there for them, and get rid of the whole puking ghost, thing and put in like real ghost hunting. You know what I mean? Like, Dalton could have called them. Because he watched their video. I mean, yeah, that would have been a ridiculous coincidence that he just happened to call those people, right? But like, at least they would have been in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely agree on all that because, and let's face it, and it's not that it's just a poor cameo. They have definitive proof that ghosts exist and they're stuck on a barely watched YouTube channel. Like, they should be writing books. They should be experts in their field.
Right. Yeah. And again, as we saw at the end of 2, they were still working hand in hand with Ghost Elise.
Right.
Right. So,
and
like,
Carl probably would have called them too for work.
Right. Again, there's no reason for them to be like reverted to cameos, and there's no reason why they wouldn't call anyone else for help. Again, Patrick Wilson at this point, again, you're like assuming, oh, he must have got all his memory back. But then at the end, when he talks to Ghost Elise, he doesn't even remember who she is.
Right.
So he didn't get his memory back. How the hell did he remember how to go into the further?
Right.
Again, there's so many things that, like, you think about it, that this movie just upset me. I'm like, what is happening with this movie? There's so many just plot holes just all over. It's like Swiss cheese.
Yes. Yeah, I said just forgotten threads. And if this is the last hurrah of the Lambert family, wow. That's I know they're making is like shortly after this movie came out, like a day or two after, they're like, oh, we're making a spinoff called Threads. I go, maybe these threads will be the threads that are missing.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, to pick up all the cool things he could have done in the last 3 movies and then make them into one good movie.
Right. So, I mean, do you feel that the Lambert family was needed to come back for this franchise? Do you think it was like, hey, we're going to get the original people back, we're going to go back to form, but just completely miss the mark?
Again, I think it could have been done well. I mean, I think it would have been okay for them to come back, if everybody wanted to come back.
Yeah.
I think that would have been okay, but I mean, the thing is, they just came back and did it in such a dumb way. I mean, if it was done in a way that would have made sense, I think it would have been better. Again, if they would have done something akin to like Chapter 2, I think it would have been good. And I think they tried to, but it just, it fell flat. It was just done very, very badly.
Yes.
So I don't think they needed to come back. I think it would have been totally fine if they came back. It just needed to make more sense. Needed to have another writing pass or something. I don't know what needed to happen here. You need to bring in a script doctor or something. Something needed to happen here that did not.
Well, I know that Patrick Wilson kind of wrote and directed this himself, but I've been like, hey, James Wan, Lee, you guys did these first 4. What do you think? They should be like, whoa, what the hell are you doing to these characters?
Yeah. Like, what's this whole, original plot that gets abandoned? Like, what is this all about?
Right. But no.
Nope.
They just go, it's yours.
Yeah.
Have at it. All right. Well, that being said, how many unnecessary jump scares music out of 10 do you give this?
This is rough. I mean, I have to look at the other movie. Like, where do I want this to fit right into this thing? Like, is it as good as or as bad as or what? So I think I'm gonna have to go with 3.5 unnecessary jump scare music out of 10.
All right, so second worst. Got it.
Yes. Yes, I don't think it's quite as bad as 3 because at least they try in some parts. I just think that enough of it is missing to where it doesn't even do some of the stuff. Like The Last Key had some interesting moments, and this one I think falls flat of that.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm gonna rewatch it with the wife when it comes to streaming, but yeah, this is definitely on the weaker side of things. Yeah, and there was all because usually when you and I go see these movies together, we have discussions in the parking lot outside the theater and just kind of start airing out some of our grievances. And we had a lot.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Lot.
For sure.
For that reason, yeah, it's is it better than 3? Yeah, it is better than 3.
Yeah, like I said, it's rough. It's rough. I don't know where I want it to fall. Again, it's somewhere under 5 and above 3. It's in there somewhere, but I'm not quite sure where. That's why I just settled on 3.
I have to go 5.75 just because I can't go all the way to 6 because that's what I did Last Key at. And the original was 6.5. So it's below those. I agree. It's the second weakest in this. And like I said, I was disappointed as a whole with this movie, with the holes, quite frankly, in it. I don't know at this point in time if I'm excited about the spinoff. I don't know what to think of it. I'll have to see it or watch a trailer when it actually happens. It was just announced, so just because it's announced doesn't mean it's actually happening. It could go through production hell. Who knows? I don't know if we'll ever know. I'll be okay with this franchise being done though too.
Again, I think it can go places that are interesting and fun. Again, I think it needs to follow closer to that Chapter 2 formula of have an investigation where you find out what the ghost is, who it is, what its history is, what, why it's doing what it's doing, kind of like that kind of interesting, cool stuff. I think that needs to happen. I think that gives it that extra spice.
Yeah.
That made that one that much better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when that comes out, I think next year, we'll have to do it in our movies we may have missed throughout the year type episode for things that don't fall in line, especially as things come out, because we're revisiting this franchise when we can when that movie comes
I
out.
don't want to watch these six movies again in a year.
No. So essentially, what we'll probably end up doing is like a remnants type thing as we progress in this podcast, because we're going to have this happen more and more. Quite honestly, we're going to have a Scream 7. We're going to have another Hellraiser. We're going to have other things in there that come out after the fact that we're not going to go back and revisit it as its entirety as we progress. So we'll work that out when we get there. Getting there. So, all right. Any final thoughts?
Nope.
All right. Why don't you bring us home then?
All right. Let's get the tally on again with another director's spotlight. This time we will get into Lucio Fulci and whether we can be the Ripper in getting the contraband from beyond, or we will just become zombies too. Yes. Remember, we watch bad movies so you don't have to.
This has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.